Production of Ruckus is made possible through the generous support of Dave and Jamie Cummings, the Hartwig family, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Welcome to Ruckus, our weekly food for thought fight over the news of the day and the trends of the times. I'm Mike Shannon. The Ruckettes join me shortly. And our topics this week: downtown supporters feeling optimism, Kansas budget watchers feeling pessimism, and one columnist feels like she's gagging over her choices for president, plus roast and toast. But we start with an issue that has probably received more attention on Ruckus than any other in recent years. It involves questions about finance and revenue in the state of Kansas and how they affect the day-to-day operations of state agencies and programs. On Ruckus, we often hear from panelists who are critical of Governor Sam Brownback and GOP legislators. Our guest today is a man who will likely defend the governor's policies and attempt to provide some context for the economic debate. We welcome former state senator Nick Jordan, now the Kansas Secretary of Revenue. Mr. Secretary, Nick, it's good to see you again.
Good to see you too, Mike.
What are your essential responsibilities as Secretary of Revenue? You're sort of the tax collector, aren't you?
We are, but that's only a part of what we do. That's obviously a big part, particularly this kind of time of year. But we've got the Division of Motor Vehicles, which we feel we've turned around. We had a little bit of a blip when we first came in on a new system, but we've turned that around, and wait times are way down. You can really get in and get out now. We have Property Valuation Division, which oversees the property valuations across the state. We have Alcoholic Beverage Control under us. We have an interesting area that we don't like to talk, they don't like us to talk about a lot. It's called Office of Special Investigations. That checks identity theft and tax fraud. And those guys have broken up probably three or four, or been a part of breaking up 3 or 4 human trafficking rings. So I'm real proud of the work that team does too. And then we've got support people.
Well, you get the most attention about finances
Yes,
and revenue.
yes.
Why are there so many issues surrounding revenue in Kansas? I wrote down a few: credit downgrades, cuts in various programs, delays in putting money into the state employees' pension fund. What is the problem? Is it too little taxation, too much spending? What's the issue?
Some people would say both. Actually,
what do you say?
starting off, Mike, this fiscal year through April, we've taken in $123.7 million more than we did the same fiscal year through April last year. So we're taking in more revenue than we're taking in the previous year. So a lot of people would say it's a spending problem. You got more money.
Nick, if I can interrupt, it's less money than you took in like 3 years ago, right?
Well, because the intention of the governor when he came in was to put more money back in Kansans' pockets. And we did that. We've reduced taxes on Kansans now about 30%. 71% of those tax savings went to individuals and families, 29% of the small business part that gets the attention. But the largest share went into families.
Well, but people say you've got, what, 300,000 people who pay no taxes.
And that's not totally the truth. They do pay taxes.
Well, they don't pay income taxes.
Well, they do pay some income taxes. I don't want to get into the weeds, but there's over 620,000 W-2s issued by those small businesses, meaning a lot of employees are paying taxes. If you have an S-corp, you have to pay taxes on your income because the federal government makes you do it. They pay taxes on capital gains, dividends. They pay taxes.
What's going to happen if the state Supreme Court orders the legislature to put more money into education, as I assume is going to be the case?
I think the governor and the legislature are going to have to sit down and decide where we're at and how we're going to go forward. You know, I was there in 2005 when we had that situation. I was a state senator at the time, and we passed a big dollar amount for schools. Mike, I think, and this is just a personal opinion, doesn't actually fall in the revenue department, but the formula has been somewhat of a struggle for Johnson County schools in particular, and almost every school district tell you be a struggle. So I know the governor and the legislature a couple of years ago said time to call timeout on that for a bit. Let's do the block grants and come up with a new funding formula. So one, they're going to have to address whatever happens at the Supreme Court, no doubt about it. But they're also planning to come back next year and address the school finance
Two
formula.
Separate cases before the state Supreme Court.
Right.
Both could mean more money in taxation. Let me
Yes.
put something on the screen that Kansas City Star columnist Yael Abahaka said about you and get your reaction. I'm quoting now. Revenue Director Nick Jordan has dutifully marched out to announce the monthly budget numbers with a cheerful attitude that ignores all reality, such as this. The state missed its budget predictions for almost the entire last year. Jordan should have been more professional in alerting Kansans to the real fiscal challenges facing the state. What do you say?
I think one, Yale isn't reading our full press release we put out, because every month I talk about economic issues also in the state. And I think we've been fairly honest in what we're saying. We're saying that revenues are growing. They're not growing to the extent we thought they would. Why is that? Oil production in Kansas is down 21.8%. Exports are off 10.8%, which is extremely important to the aviation and agricultural part of our state. The aviation industry has been struggling and hurting. Sprint just laid off 860 some people. Those are things you can't set in an April and November consensus revenue estimating group and say, you know, a few months from now, oil's going to go down 21.8%, or farm commodities are going to hurt. Those are things that you got to deal with as you go along. So we're not seeing the growth, and we've been very honest about it, that we would have anticipated.
I got to wrap it up. Just have a few seconds.
Sure.
Steve Rose quoted you the other day as saying you're upbeat about the fiscal future. Is that fair to say? Is he right?
Upbeat from the standpoint that I think we're seeing some indications. We've had a tremendous amount of new small businesses move to Kansas, Mike. 18,340 over 2 years, over $1 billion in new income. We're getting some new developments. We've got a lot of things to be pleased about and successful about. But I'm never going to say we don't have challenges.
All right, hang in there. Thanks for coming in. It's good to see you again.
Good to see you too, Mike.
That is Kansas Revenue Secretary Nick Jordan. Now let's meet the panel and start a ruckus. John Stevens is the president of Rock Hill Strategic. Gwen Grant is president and CEO of the Urban League in Kansas City. Mary O'Halloran is a media and communications consultant, and Ron Freeman is a motivational speaker and writer, and the former executive director of the Kansas Republican Party. Good to have all of you back. Nice to see you all again. Thanks for coming in. Let us start by following up on my discussion with Secretary Jordan. The Kansas legislature has ended its 2016 session, at least for now, and has left Governor Sam Brownback to figure out how to plug what remains of a $290 million deficit in the Kansas budget. State law precludes deficit spending. The legislature found about $200 million in cuts. Brownback will find the rest. Democrats and some Republicans say this deficit problem and future ones can be avoided simply by returning to the income tax system the way it was before Brownback. Is that indeed the solution, Ron?
You know what? I think we have a situation. Well, I know we do. The governor's got 12 days now to go over that budget. He can sign it as it is and say we're going to run with that. He can line item veto, or he can veto it altogether and offer a total another package. But I think you have to trust at some point that there are a lot of variables that he's going to be working with, that he'll come up with a solid decision. I personally believe that. I think it's going to take work, but standing on the sideline criticizing every move doesn't really help or produce anything.
So the reason the legislature turns this over to Brownback is because they're all running for re-election, or many of them are running for re-election. They don't want to have to make a difficult choice.
Absolutely not. They don't. To say they're going to cut something, but the thing that you're looking at is part of the problem has to do with agriculture and oil and gas, and you can't control those prices. And so what do? That affects your revenue.
But is this the first time in Kansas history that prices for oil and gas and agriculture have gone up or down?
Oh, no, but it isn't. But economically, it's just having a negative impact right now. That's part of the problem.
Is it possible, Mary, that these tax cuts take time to show up as they did during the Reagan years? Reagan's tax cuts began in ’81. We didn't really see the massive impact of them, I don't think, until late '83, early '84.
Clinton was president.
But that's not, you know, that's not true. There were massive economic gains during the Reagan years. But anyway, is it possible we just haven't spent enough time waiting for something to happen?
The state's not in jeopardy.
The governor and the
Hang on,
legislature that supports him is engaged in some really dangerous and destructive political behavior. They are refusing to make the $100 million contribution to the state pension fund. They are now financing the funds that they take out of the State Department of Transportation. So, and that's now
just to clarify, billions. Mary, they're not refusing to put the money in the Public Employees Retirement Fund. They're delaying it.
When are they delaying it to? Let me just finish on this, Mike, because that's an important point. Until 1918.
That'll be a long time.
2018. 2018.
Got a time machine.
They'll have to pay it back. With what? We don't know. Again,
well, they've doubled the contribution in the last few years. So
cuts to social services and going home and leaving a deficit in the budget and saying, and the governor's going to finish the work.
Well,
is really
has that not happened
irresponsible.
before in Kansas history?
Well, whether it happened before or not,
it's not that unusual.
This time, it really is dangerous because where's he going to cut, Mike? What's
Well,
left?
I don't know. I don't sit in the governor's office with him and say,
financing.
where are you going to
That's why
cut,
he was
Sam?
elected.
We're
That's why he
borrowing
was
money
elected.
in order to
John,
make it
if school
balanced at
finance
this point.
decisions by the state Supreme Court reject the funding formula and in 2 cases say you've got to put more money into education to be fair and to fulfill your constitutional responsibilities, where is that money going to come from?
Well, I think that's pretty likely. I think that they will say that there needs to be an increase in funding to accommodate that ruling. And how large that is, I think it's, who knows? But that is, the legislature put it on the governor.
But these
to
guys don't
decide
want to
that.
raise taxes.
They don't want to raise taxes, and I think it's interesting that Kansas is not the only state that has structurally changed their taxes and put
And this is
themselves
not the
into some
first
challenges.
time Kansas has struggled with school finance in the state Supreme Court.
But Kansas is relatively unique in that Kansas always prided itself on being fiscally responsible and pillars, education as a pillar. They've put those things in jeopardy, and I think that the easiest way to fix it, I don't think you have to roll everything back to pre-Brownback, but closing the LLC loophole is a must do if you're going to do any of these things.
Okay, Gwen, Steve Rose suggested, I think on this program and then also in a column, that Brownback might be weary of all this and thinks of maybe resigning and going ahead to be the president of Kansas State University in Manhattan, where there's now a vacancy. How likely do you think this is?
Highly unlikely. I think Brownback thinks he's doing a great job and that he's acting in the best interest of Kansas,
He is.
irrespective of what the facts say. And I don't think that he will step down at all.
Like I said in the introduction to the secretary interview, panelists on Ruckus have often been critical of Governor Brownback and GOP legislators.
Let me ask you a question. When you said to John that these people don't like to raise taxes, that's not true, of course. The biggest tax increase in Kansas history was last year, the Brownback proposal to at least pass a budget that had some balance to it.
That's when they raised the
Biggest
sales tax
increase. Sales
back
tax.
to its
Including on
previous
food.
level.
And
as I
several
recall.
other taxes, by the way.
Can we go on? I know 2 of you were having private conversations.
Well, we're all talking about
If you
taxes.
2 are finished, can I go ahead then?
We're all
All right.
done.
Kansas is not falling. You're going to be
All right.
fine.
The downtown streetcar system has debuted, and early reports of its success are plentiful. But longtime Kansas City Star columnist Yael Abahaka knows from experience that local projects that look promising at the outset can lose luster over time. Still, Yael offers a preemptive and optimistic outlook, writing, even if the streetcar runs into problems, its shortcomings likely will be only temporary. Smart people will fix what ails it. The streetcar will join a list of high-profile projects that have stumbled at first, but are now strong assets. Abahaka cites Union Station, the Zoo, and Liberty Memorial as some examples. So, Gwen, do you think Yale's apparent optimism is justified?
Sure. I think, who wouldn't be optimistic about the streetcar? I mean, look, the first Friday, downtown was booming with people excited to ride the streetcar, and all of the entertainment districts from the River Market to Crown Center and the Crossroads were full of people and excitement around the streetcar. And I think, it's natural that it's going to come out the box strong. The novelty will soon wear off. And that's when we'll see.
Well, but that's kind of the point. I think we all would concede it's going to be a big deal at the beginning, but down the road, if it starts to falter, Yael is saying it can be fixed. Do you have optimism that that is the case?
Absolutely. You don't invest the kind of money that's been invested in the streetcar and then let it fail. Of course, we can.
Well, we
fix it.
invested
Yes,
lots of
but
money in the Power and Light District, and
well,
it hasn't failed, but it hasn't generated the revenues to pay its debt.
It hasn't, and I've been a critic of that as well. But I think we still have to work at it. I mean, and he cites some good examples. Union Station is one exactly. It took a while for them to figure it out.
Took several years,
but
didn't
they
it?
did, and so, but because it's a major asset to the city, and we have to do that. So I think the thing to anticipate is that the ridership will not be as high as it was during the launch. Let's see how it impacts spending downtown for all the merchants along the route. See how that works for those people who had that kind of forced on them with the way the whole thing went down. But I think the key is, will they be able to expand the route so that it's more than a
that's the
2-mile
key.
route? And that's what's going to drive its effectiveness
Let me
over
show you a
time.
picture I saw on Tony's Kansas City that was taken by none other than Crosby Kemper III.
Oh, well,
And
that's my buddy
there it
Crosby.
is, and it says 6:59 a.m.
But it's
Now, I think that was
6:59 a.m.
Monday or Tuesday of this week, I don't know. Saturday, the attendance on the bus riders, 14,648. Sunday, 5,448. Monday, 3,945. Are you optimistic, as Yale points out, that even if there are problems that develop with the streetcar system, there are smart people around who are going to fix those problems?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with that. And I also think that it's a change in mindset. And I've talked to Yale and others about this, that many of these projects that have, quote, struggled after they've come online, it's because we set them up as the home run or the game changer that's going to fix everything. It's the cure to all of our ills. The streetcar is just another step in being a modern city that appeals to future generations of workers and residents. And it's going to have to, how it's going to succeed and how it's going to avoid the struggles is it has to be well maintained. It has to be well managed. And I think something that's getting overlooked is the ATA with Ride KC. Now that is a unified regional transit overlay, they have to do a very good job of making sure that is connected to the streetcar and that is furthering transit across the
Mary,
metro.
it's been said by John and others that economic development downtown is on the uprise, and part of the reason is the streetcar system. Now the streetcar is up and running. Will the economic development progress continue, do you
Well,
think?
I think that's the best gauge of whether or not it's successful, is what happens alongside it. Does the development, not just the stunning announcements of development, what,
1.7 billion.
2 billion
Yeah,
or
almost $2 billion
1.7 billion
Well, we don't know
worth of
that's
development.
exclusively
Now,
because
this
of
is
the
what
streetcar.
Of course not. Say.
Well, they say it's because of the
That's-
changes downtown
that's what
and,
tipped them
and
over.
support from the city in terms of tax increment financing.
We're starting to be a world-class city. And if you could have a building right on that line, I'd like to be the owner of Anton's Restaurant where it has a loading right in front of the door. I mean, these people are going to do very well. The question is, will the wealth created by the streetcar start to move out into the neighborhoods in the surrounding
Ron,
areas?
speaking
And
of
I
new
think it will.
projects, there was one that a lot of people were looking at and anticipating, a new Kansas City International one-terminal airport. And Mayor James suddenly said, no, not in 2016, because like 40% support was showing up in polls. That means 60% were saying no way. So what do you think with KCI next year?
Well, first of all, I think I have more confidence in the Kansas economy recovering than the streetcar, but that's another story. But you got to have people have to want to use it. And I think that's what he faced. The reality was the people don't want a new airport, and they're not going to support it. And so you can talk about it all you want, but if you don't have the support of the community, it's not going to happen.
Can I say something? I
Well,
wanna
quickly,
get
if you
on here
would,
quickly. Yeah, so the problem with this was the people from the very beginning, we were saying what we wanted, and that was a renovated airport that maintained the current features and amenities that everybody liked. And everybody at City Hall and at KC Aviation were pretty much tone deaf to that.
Well, they know better.
And so the poll,
Yeah.
so therefore, the poll said what the people
yeah.
wanted, and had they paid attention up front, maybe we would be
And the
moving
airlines,
forward with something that
unless
the
they've
people
changed their
wanted.
minds at the time, the airlines said, we're not paying for renovation, we're paying for
but
rebuilding.
that all shit. But early on, the airlines were open to
Well,
renovation.
but just
Yes,
recently
they
they
were.
Yes,
said
they were.
Recently they
So-
said they were, but they changed their mind. Anyway, we got to
yeah,
change
yeah.
topics. Now that we are pretty sure who the Democrats and Republicans will nominate for president, Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, the Star's Mary Sanchez is lamenting the lack of a third option. She likes the idea of unaligned candidates outlined in Greg Orman's book, A Declaration of Independence, which we discussed a few weeks ago on Ruckus with Orman. As you may recall, Orman lost his bid for the U.S. Senate in Kansas, running without party affiliation. Sanchez explains that independents' views often fall in the middle of the political spectrum, some liberal, some conservative, and are often more nuanced than what voters get from typical candidates of either party. Ms. Sanchez opens her column with this statement: America is nearly gagging over its two probable choices for president. So our first question, are you nearly gagging over our choices, Mary?
Quite the opposite. Pretty colorful language for a columnist, but not at all. As a matter of fact, when I sit back and look at it and try to be as objective as I can, I'm really very excited about what's happening in the country. I've never seen so many people on such a wide broad spectrum of political views, engaged. I mean, really engaged, discussing, all the 16 Republicans and the Hillary-Bernie discussions. Most of my friends, well, I'd say they're probably 50-50. But we have these wonderful discussions we haven't really had in years about the left side of Democratic Party life and the center, and what are the differences, because Bernie's so articulate about laying it out. So record television viewing of debates, record voting on the part of Republicans and Democrats, depending on the state, where state election officers have had to really re-examine how they provide for people to lessen the lines. And so I am hopeful that this engagement is going to produce a great president,
Ron,
and I think it will.
People talk about, and Orman in his book talks about, and I described it in the intro, people who say they like some liberal ideas and they like some conservative ideas and they like some other ideas. Is that the basis for a coherent political philosophy, saying I'll take some from menu item 1, some from menu 2?
That's what he tried, and it didn't work very well. I mean, 43% of the vote wasn't a real threat at the end of the day. But I think what you're looking at, the real issue is the voters. And voters want to get behind someone who stands for whether it's Bernie Sanders or Donald Trump. They have to have a clear message that people say, yeah, I'm for that.
Sanders is pretty clear what he wants,
yeah,
right?
Yes, very clear.
$20 trillion and more spending, more taxes, free education.
But you know where he's coming from.
There's no doubting about what he believes.
And that's how he wins.
There is doubting sometimes about what Trump believes.
That's how he won the race.
Certainly.
It depends on
Yes, but he's got something else, though. He's got a wall, though.
But let me ask over here.
Donald has a wall.
Do you think most people feel comfortable saying, well, I hear people always saying, I'm socially liberal, but I'm fiscally conservative. And can you be both?
Well, certainly. And I think that what happens and what we're seeing with both sides, both Democrats and Republicans, is many of us have assumed that the party platforms are concrete, that they're absolute. And I think Trump and Sanders are both proving that those party platforms are shifting and are getting soft around the edges, and things are having to adjust.
But nobody thinks party platforms are meaningful. I mean, the old expression is they're to stand on, not to run on.
Right.
They don't mean
I would
anything.
disagree with John about the Republican side of that. Donald Trump does not line up with any recent Republican platform that I can think of.
Well, on one day he might.
Some
And
days,
then
He's
some
wearing a
days
cross from time to
he's
time.
more on the
the wall
Democratic
is a
side of
Republican
things. It
concept.
depends on the day.
But the point of the column was really that there should be a third choice, which speaks to some independent candidate. But the reality is, history has shown us that the third choice cannot win. I mean, if you look back at Perot, who ran a race, what did he get? 29% of the vote? 19%. And so, time after time, we're not going in the middle with that independent vote. That independent has to make a choice to go
we always have a third. We always have third choices, fourth choices.
Yeah, the choices have always
I mean,
been
they're
there.
always there on the
We're
panel.
basically a
Let me ask you
two-party
this
system.
quick final question. Do you think people have rather fuzzy definitions of what is liberal and what is conservative? And
of course.
I mean,
Yeah.
somebody may say they're very liberal and they don't know exactly what that means,
Of
or
course.
conservative for that matter.
And honestly, that's why I think that you could see a Gary Johnson or someone in the Libertarian side get the 5% threshold.
Got to move on. We're out of time. Now it's time for Roast and Toast, where the Ruckettes offer a slap on the back or a kick in the pants to people and events in the news. Let's be brief, all of us, and begin with Gwen.
I'll be very brief. I'm roasting the Donald for refusing to release his income tax records. I mean, seriously, he says he's the greatest businessman in the world. He knows more about taxes than anyone else in the world, but yet he will not disclose his tax information. 40 years history of presidential candidates being transparent about their financial situation, and the Donald says no. Shame on you.
Mary.
I'm toasting Loretta Lynch, the United States Attorney General, for this week's action against the government of the state of North Carolina for their state-sponsored discrimination against transgendered people. She said this action is about a great deal more than bathrooms. This is about the dignity and respect we owe our fellow citizens and the laws we've enacted to protect them, indeed to protect all of us. It's about the founding ideals that have led this country haltingly but inexorably in the direction of fairness, inclusion, and equality. Loretta Lynch, a great speech.
John.
I'd like to toast the World War I Museum at Liberty Memorial for their $5 million expansion through great corporate and civic support that will turn an already world-class museum into another international showcase for traveling exhibits that I think will benefit citizens and visitors alike.
I'd like to toast former Grandview Mayor Steve Dennis. Lost him to a heart attack at age 52 a week ago. But a remarkable man, served his community well. Only person I know that literally ran into a burning building to save a family. Didn't tell anybody, but he's a great man, and God bless him and his family.
How old was it? 50?
52.
All right, and finally, thanks to some modest planning and some happenstance, I've been to some of the great Kansas City institutions the last few days. Hearing jazz at Kauffman Center, touring the World War I Museum, John, commemorating President Truman's birthday at the Truman Library, and celebrating it a day later with the Truman Good Neighbor Foundation at the Muehlebach Hotel, a landmark Truman himself frequented. All told, it served as a vivid reminder of how rich this area is in culture and history. A toast, then, to all these institutions with gratitude for what they provide us. And that is Ruckus for this time. We're back next Thursday at 7. Now for the Ruckettes and the crew, I'm Mike Shannon saying thanks very much for watching and good night.
Production of Ruckus is made possible through the generous support of Dave and Jamie Cummings, the Hartwig family, and by viewers like you. Thank you.